Hey there, Cayman Climate Champions. Welcome back to a brand new adventure with me, Bella, your Climate Ranger. We are in the mangroves at Barker's National Park today to talk about, you guessed it, mangroves. We are joined today by a real-life mangrove ranger from the Mangrove Education Project. And we're gonna learn a little bit about why mangroves are so important to us here in the Cayman Islands. I'm ready. Are you? Let's go. Today we are talking to Cassie MacDowell, a mangrove ranger from the Mangrove Education Project. Hey Cassie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks Bella. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to see these mangroves. Should we head down the boardwalk and check them out?
Sounds good.
We are here in a beautiful mangrove forest, and I'm wondering if you can tell us the significance of mangroves as a coastal ecosystems and some of their unique characteristics.
Of course. So mangroves, like we said, are coastal habitats. They're usually found in tropical regions, and that plays a big role in supporting our biodiversity and fish species as well as aviary species. And just due to their root systems, it makes them very, very good at a lot of different functions, not just for the animals, but also for us. So those roots provide nice, safe homes for marine life and aquatic species. They provide nice little safe shelters away from big predators. So that's how they help support aquatic species. How they help support us with those roots is they help stabilize sediment. So they help prevent erosion. They also trap a lot of nutrients for promoting the growth of new baby mangroves. And also they help mitigate storm surge and flooding because they're wetlands.
Okay, and what is the difference between the different root systems of the mangroves?
That's a great question. So the red mangroves have those big prop and drop roots, we like to call them. So they help prop the tree up out of the water and they drop down from the roots. So prop and drop are the red mangrove aerial roots. And the black mangroves have what we like to call little snorkel roots because they stick their little snorkels up out of the ground, and that allows them access to air, which they need for photosynthesis.
Okay, and what about the white mangroves? Are they similar to the red or black?
Yeah, so white mangroves are a little different. To the average person, they might look like just a regular tree. They don't really have any standout characteristics like the red or the black mangroves. They have root systems all underground, so they don't have any sort of aerial roots. But that's because they're typically found the furthest inland, so the furthest away from the water, so they don't usually need roots above the ground to access that air and oxygen.
Oh, that's really interesting. And how do mangroves support a diverse array of organisms and demonstrate biological interdependence within this ecosystem?
So just like how we were talking about the root systems and how they provide safe homes and shelter for different sorts of species, these trees really provide so much for us and for animals. So we have a lot of migratory birds that come through the Cayman Islands, and a big stop-off point on their way to Central America is the Central Mangrove Wetlands. And this is an area of wetlands that spans about 8,500 acres between Northside and Boddentown, and it is a hugely important ecosystem here in the Cayman Islands. So it supports the migratory species of birds. It also supports the North Sound habitat. So these mangroves line the coast in the North Sound, and they supply our North Sound with all of the amazing aquatic life that we like to see, and filters the water, so it creates a nice clean, clear stingray city, and directly supports our coral reefs.
Okay, oh my gosh, let's go check out some of the mangroves along the coast now.
Sounds good.
So we are here on a mangrove beach now, where the ocean is coming in and being held at bay by these beautiful mangroves. What are the ecological interdependencies between the mangrove habitats and the marine organisms or other organisms like birds that might use these habitats?
That's great. So a lot of the ecological interdependencies that we can talk about have to do with our entire coastal lagoon ecosystem. So when we talk about the species that live in the mangroves, we're not just talking about specific species that only stay in the mangroves. These fish and crustaceans and sometimes birds will migrate out into the deeper ocean. So a lot of the birds, like our booby birds, our red-footed boobies in Little Cayman, will nest in the mangroves and go out to sea and look for that fish to eat. We also have a lot of species like juvenile snappers, juvenile barracudas, little lobsters and conchs. They all will start their lives off in the mangroves and the seagrass habitats, and as they get bigger, move out onto the coral reefs. So these mangroves are very good at providing those safe shelters for juvenile species during that phase of life before they're big enough to get out onto the coral reefs where they have a lesser chance of being predated on.
Cool, so they're nurseries for a lot of different animals.
Exactly.
Oh, that's super cool. And I guess climate change poses a bit of a threat to this. So what are some of the climate-related factors like sea level rise or temperature change that might affect these mangroves?
Yeah, so mangroves, like we went through, have those aerial roots, right? So because the roots can be in the water, they still need access to the air. They need oxygen, they need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So when we talk about things like sea level rise, that can really affect especially the black mangroves that have those snorkel roots. They're only so tall, so if we get a lot of flooding or a big storm surge or sea level rises too much, those pneumatophores are going to become submerged. And if those pneumatophores are underwater for too long, then the tree can drown. But that is why it is very important that we do our part as everybody, as citizens of this planet, to reduce the impacts and the carbon dioxide emissions that we produce for the environment. Some other ways that climate can affect the mangroves, like you said, is stronger storms. So going back to that climate change, our excess carbon emissions are creating stronger, more frequent hurricanes. And the mangroves, the red mangroves, do have those wiggly roots, but they can only take so much. So sometimes when there's bigger waves, lots of wind, they can break. They're very good at standing strong, but when we have bigger storms, unfortunately, they can't manage the full impact. Also flooding, like I said with the black mangroves, can submerge the trees and essentially drown them. So it is very important that we reduce our carbon emissions to help protect these beautiful ecosystems.
Oh, well, let's wander a little bit further down the beach and see a little bit more of them.
Sounds good.
Okay. We are surrounded by some beautiful red mangroves for our last question, and that is, what changes do you hope to see for the future of Cayman?
It would be really great to see some reduced development in mangrove wetland areas, more preservation of our central mangrove wetlands and our remaining wetlands in the western side of Grand Cayman. And it would be great to see more people in the community getting involved in mangrove safeguarding initiatives. So things like becoming a mangrove ranger with the Mangrove Education Project, volunteering with Plastic Free Cayman on one of their mangrove cleanups to reduce some of the plastic and pollution that we see in our mangroves. Also donating to the National Trust Land Reserve Fund, where the funds go directly into purchasing environmentally and historically significant land like our mangrove wetlands. And just people being more aware of what the benefits of mangroves are to us and all of our great animals that we have here in Cayman.
Oh, thank you so much, Cassie. I've learned so much from this.
I'm glad. Thanks for having me.
Remember, you are empowered and capable of making meaningful changes every day that will help the future of our islands. Now get out there and explore your home. I'm going to keep looking at the mangroves.